My friends, sometimes the news comes dressed in the language of courts and statutes, but the meaning is meant for every one of us at home. This week, America's highest court did something simple and something urgent. The Supreme Court told a president, "You cannot reach for powers that Congress never gave." That sounds like dry lawmaking. But let me tell you, the heart of the matter is not remote. The very way our republic works rests on this line. Can one leader, facing trouble, change the nation's fortunes by the stroke of a pen? Or do the slow, open laws of Congress and the people still guard the gate? Picture a busy import warehouse at dawn. Forklifts silent, boxes stacked. News has arrived in the night. Those tariffs that shaped paychecks and prices? On hold. The men and women standing there aren't thinking of Roberts or Kavanaugh. They are wondering, will they get a refund for jobs lost? Will prices change again next week? Is order coming or a new tide of confusion? Let's set the table. The president, Donald Trump in this story, faced deep worries: foreign threats, drugs crossing borders, unfair trade. He reached for the tools at hand. Using a law called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA for short, he put tariffs, big, sweeping ones, on goods from other nations. Bills piled up. Some cheered the tough line, others worried about rising costs. Then, this Friday, the Supreme Court spoke. By a vote of 6-3, they struck down those tariffs. Their reason? The law does not give the president the power to set tariffs, not even when emergencies crowd in. That's not a power to be borrowed. It belongs to Congress, and through Congress, to the people. Now, a pause. Let's not just talk in checklists and headlines. Let's remind ourselves why the founders built our system this way. Picture Congress in session. Men and women debating trade, war, peace. Each voice adds a check or a press to the balance. When only one hand pulls all the levers, danger can follow fast on the heels of good intentions. Think for a moment of a mother at her kitchen table, bills stacked high, newsprint in hand. She's read about price hikes at the store, tariffs here, refunds there, policies changing under her feet. She is not a lawyer, but she asks what millions are now asking: who decides? Who protects my interests when the storms blow? See the stakes rise. Not just for lawyers or for those who profit in shipping lanes. There's a deeper beat. If the president can reach for any tool in the kit, claim an emergency, then change our whole trade, with no clear voice from Congress, what stops the next act, or the one after that? What if the voice of the public grows thin, drowned in a sea of orders? Let's step back a little. The court used a tool called the Major Questions Doctrine. That simply means, when government tries to make a choice that shakes whole markets, costs jobs, maybe costs billions in refunds, only Congress, with its many eyes and ears, can set the ground rules. The president may act swiftly in a storm, but always within walls built by the people's law. Picture now an empty congressional hearing room late at night, files piled high, lawmakers' chairs cold, but every fact debated, every power checked. This is not speed for speed's sake. It is the slow fire that guards our liberty, that makes sure the acts of today can't trample the hard-won freedoms of tomorrow. Of course, some say this slows our defense. See, in the court's own divisions, a picture of America's real difficulty. Justice Kavanaugh, joined by a few others, warned, what if emergencies demand boldness? What if waiting for Congress, in the face of fentanyl or foreign threats, costs lives? That question must not be brushed aside. Think of security officials at a border checkpoint. Long lines of trucks wait to cross, each one a possible risk, or a needed supply. The people standing guard must protect us, but they also need laws they can trust, not blank checks, not silence from their government. And let's not ignore the global stage. After all, these tariffs did not just change prices in our towns. They rippled outward, into talks with China, deals with Canada and Britain, choices on store shelves in far-off places. Picture, if you will, a late-night meeting in a foreign embassy, diplomats speaking low, wondering if America keeps her promises or changes them at the turn of a page. That brings a kind of fear, uncertainty for trade partners, for American businesses, for everyone whose job depends on a contract written in faith. But let me say, plainly, America's strength does not come from acting without limits. Our allies and our rivals alike watch how we treat law. When we are faithful to process, even if it costs a little speed, we build trust that lasts longer than any single crisis. Now let's get closer to home again. Imagine a small business on Main Street, shelves lined with goods, some from near, some from overseas. The owner opens a letter from a supplier. The old tariff is gone. Will prices tumble or rise again soon? Her workers look to her for answers, but she too waits for Washington's next move. This, my friends, is not an academic puzzle. Will there be refunds for money already lost? The court left that question hanging. Some worry, if the government pays back billions, who makes up the shortfall? Across Washington tonight, officials are hunched over ledgers and legal texts, wondering how to keep promises to both sides. Let's think for a moment what this all truly means, not just for today, but for the many tomorrows to come. In every small town, at every kitchen table, Americans are asking, if the rules can change overnight, how do we plan for the future? Picture a farmer up before dawn, fields just greening for harvest, worried by talk of tariffs and refunds. His tractor cost more this year because of a rule made far away. Suddenly, he wonders if the money will come back, or if next season's plans must change again. This is the real cost of uncertainty. When power shifts without clear bounds, trust becomes a scarce thing. And trust, my friends, is the quiet backbone of every market, every handshake, every mortgage, every plan a family makes. When the people do not know who holds the reins and for how long, the path ahead becomes clouded. It matters then that this Supreme Court decision does more than settle a single law. It draws again the map of how our republic must act in times of stress. To some, the judgment may sting as a loss of strength. To others, it rings as a long overdue check. But for all of us, it is a test. Will we accept the patient wisdom of many hands and many voices? Or will we give in to the tempting ease of command by one? There are many who worry that such decisions make America weak, slow, even clumsy. But let us not forget, our greatest moments have not come when one person alone seized the helm. They came when the people's representatives, after argument and sweat and not a little dust in the air, put the nation first. Imagine the lights burning late in a union hall, workers debating what is fair. Or think of a group of small-town merchants gathered in a dusty back room, searching for a way to stay afloat through lean times, each bringing what he or she knows best. That is the American way. Slow sometimes, yes, but steady, enduring, and just. Pause and picture now a student at her school desk, learning from her teacher about checks and balances, about three branches that guard one another for the sake of freedom. She does not yet know of all the tariffs or legal battles, but she learns slowly and surely that power unchecked is power unworthy of a free people. But as the tension rises, let us not ignore the pain that comes with change. Some will not get back what they lost. Others may find the rug pulled out from beneath them, again. Every refund debated in Congress will mean something missed elsewhere. The ledger never balances itself. That is hard, and we must not paint over it with easy words. Still, let me say it plain as day. America's strength is her unity. Not in the unity of silence, but in the unity forged when differences are aired honestly, and the people's will expressed through law rather than decree. Remember, history has seen this before. In other times and places, leaders have claimed emergencies to bend the law. The end, it is said, justifies the means. Yet always, the cost has been high. Freedom given away in penny packets, promises made with one face and broken with another. So let us not allow ourselves to be blinded by fear, nor lulled by quick solutions, however bold they may seem. The Republic can be saved, not by trading away its careful truths, but by holding fast to them when the thunder rolls loudest. Now as day closes and families sit down together in houses big and small, some with more questions than answers, let us remember one thing above all. Not all news is black and white. The disputes of the courts, the worries in the marketplace, All these are but signs of a living democracy at work, and that is cause, always, for hope. If your pantry is uncertain, if your business ledger runs red instead of black, or if you lie awake over the fate of your job or your children, know this: you are not alone. The questions stirred by this Supreme Court decision belong to every American. Whether in the White House or a farmhouse, in Congress or a corner store, we each have a share in this outcome. So tonight, I say to you, do not despair. Tomorrow's headlines may bristle with new debate, but the long, steady voice of the American people, echoing through Congress, through the courts, through every hard-fought compromise, will carry us on. Let us think what kind of country we want our children to wake up in, one led by the will of a single man, or one shaped by the steady hands of the many who must live by its rules? The answer is not found in one court or even in one president. It is in the daily work of free citizens, insisting that their government acts by reason and by consent. As night falls on the bustling city streets and the quiet farms alike, let each of us carry a piece of that responsibility. For in holding our leaders to account and in taking part in the great debates of our time, we make certain that liberty does not bow to haste and that democracy endures another day. My friends, as we cross this threshold, we find ourselves with more questions than answers. Yet that, too, is the heart of a republic, asking and demanding, never permitting a single hand to hold all the keys. So, what comes next? Picture, if you will, the halls of Congress waking with fresh resolve. Committees gather, phones ring, letters stack high from every district, calls for clarity, for justice, for action. Lawmakers, under the watchful gaze of the people, must not retreat into silence. The responsibility belongs to them now, to rebuild rules where the court has drawn fresh lines, to speak for those whose voices carry no further than the Daily Mail. You, the citizen, are not powerless. Think of a truck driver pausing at a rest stop, jotting his story in a letter to his senator, or a teacher pausing between lessons to urge her neighbors, "Let's be heard." In this land, government is not them. It is us. When we speak, when we press, when we demand nothing less than good law, America moves. Still, let us not kid ourselves about the challenge ahead. Refunds must be reckoned. Budgets must be held in the balance, lest promises to some become debts to all. Picture a Treasury official late at night, papers spread across the desk, seeking a path that honors every obligation and keeps the faith of our creditors. That is steady, unsung work, the kind that upholds the dollar and the bond of a nation. Across seas, too, our friends and rivals look on. Has America lost her edge? They may wonder. Is she too slow to act? But look closer. It is in the deliberate, often noisy, always open work of a republic that true power lies. Quick fixes may win a season, but trust and partnerships, built on the steady ground of law, last a lifetime. Imagine again the worker opening his paycheck, steady for now, hoping that the rules do not shift with the next storm. Or a hospital administrator balancing costs, knowing slower change brings more stability for families in her care. These everyday choices, made in homes, shops, and offices, are linked to the slow, hard work of law for all. Yet some will say, the world moves too fast for debate. We need leaders to act, not ask. To that, I say this. Yes, crisis demands courage. But courage that bows to no oversight quickly becomes something else. Risk without check, might without right. Our republic survives because it trusts the many, not the few, to decide when and how we act. Now let's remember, our system grows stronger each time vigilance wins over panic, each time patience outlasts the easy road. Picture the father explaining to his son at supper, in America, even the president must answer to the people's law. Such lessons, quietly learned, shape the citizens and the leaders of tomorrow. When tempers flare and old arguments resurface, let us recall the lesson. The price of self-government is eternal attention. It is paid in each letter sent, each vote cast, each hard question asked of those who hold office for a while, but must answer to the country forever. Are these days easy? No, my friends, they never are. But look back and see how far we've come not by speed, but by persistence. not by decree, but by open reckoning. We weathered depressions and wars not with shortcuts, but by joining together, side by side, to demand a country big enough for all. So, as twilight deepens and the headlines roll on, let's search for steadiness, not in the rush of a pen, but in the work of many. Let's stand up for the shopkeeper and the dock worker, the mother and the teacher, who rely on laws that cannot be wiped away with one man's worry. And let us ask ourselves, what is America, if not the promise that the mighty and the modest stand equal before the law? When the rules are made by sunlight, by debate, by compromise, by all, we hold fast to the hope that has carried us for generations. So tonight I offer you not just news, but the hope of renewal, the reminder that each citizen, by standing watch and lending voice, keeps our republic strong. As long as we choose the path of patience, process, and faith in one another, we will not lose our way, no matter the winds that blow or the storms that gather. The republic can be saved by the shoulders of those who bear its burdens and the hearts of those who keep its faith. So as you tuck in your children or lock up your store, remember, the slow, noisy, sometimes frustrating work of law and balance is not a flaw, but our greatest strength. It protects us against the temptations of quick power and guards our hope from the shadows of fear. Tomorrow morning, another headline will try to tell us where power lies. But the truth is written not in any single ruling or executive order, but in the countless small acts of fairness, of patience, of neighborly courage that knit this nation together from coast to coast. So let me leave you with a picture. Imagine a town hall gathering at dusk, citizens young and old, each one rising in turn to speak a simple hope or a hard-earned worry. Under those lights, no one voice can drown out the rest. Together, they shape the path that leads us on. Will we meet the moment with anger and haste, or with steady hearts and honest work? That, my friends, is the question before us. For freedom is not simply the absence of chains. It is the right to shape our own common life, together, by rules known and debated by all. The page has turned, but the pen remains in our hands. Tonight, ask yourself, not what action comes quickest, but what kind of fairness, what kind of steadiness can outlast the rush of any crisis? What kind of country do we want to wake up to? A land of strongmen and shortcuts, or a house built brick by brick on patient hope and hard debate? In the end, the future is not written by those who shout the loudest or act the fastest. It is written by citizens who show up for the long work of a great and sometimes noisy republic. So I ask you this: when the world grows hurried and uncertain, will you stand for the steady, quiet strength of law and reason? Will you add your voice, not to the clamor for easy answers, but to the promise that in America, every hand and every hope still matters? That, my friends, is how we save the Republic, one sober step at a time. Good night, and may God bless the United States of America.